Hello, hello, hello. This is Zane. I'm going to be your host for the show. Welcome to Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. Today we are going to be talking about publicity. Publicity means something different to everyone. If you read magazines or books, or if you watch media on the television, on the internet, or anywhere else in your life, then that is your public medium. That is your reference to what is going on in the outside world. Some of us may use social media on our mobile devices. Some people may prefer to stick to a tablet or a computer. There's no telling. There are so many devices and so many preferences in the world today that we can't assume anything. There is an overlying factor. Media remains the same. I see today that many people are calling out contrasting opinions, anything contrary to their own opinion, and sometimes even opinions at all. Anyone who has an opinion might have too much of an opinion. I feel like that's what media is all about. There's different journals. Some claim to be opinion journals and some claim to be fact-based journals. Fact is a very strong word. In order for something to be declared fact, it has to be defined and obligatory. There's no getting around it. It is a fact that it is a journal. It is not a fact that that journal has accreditations. It's not a fact that that journal does not have accreditations. Different things apply in different places at different points in time. You wouldn't expect a White House reporter to do a story on a new playground in the suburbs. You wouldn't expect the local magazine to do an article on the White House. That's just a broad example. Another good example would be an American reporter doing a story on something that happened in Europe, or a reporter from the Congo doing a story on Japan. Maybe a blogger. You wouldn't see a blogger do a story on a newspaper. It would be very redundant to their cause, and that would be a blogger going up against an accredited news source. It just does not add up. Granted, that does not mean that people do not do it. You just don't see it very often. And that's really what matters. A lot of people have gotten away from that. There was a sense of urgency, a sense of importance, and a sense of commonality in the general purpose news form. Whether or not there was a camera involved, whether or not there was audio recordings, any tape at all, it could have been written out on a piece of paper, it could have been written with a typewriter, or it could have been written on an office computer. There's no telling. Some journalists really go so far as to do it on their home computer. They're just that dedicated to their craft. They care that much about their audience, they care that much about their work, and some of them probably care about that pay raise that's going to be coming along with it. To each their own. To us, the viewer, or the listener, or the reader, it would be a matter of opinion. We're reading what somebody else wrote. We're not reading what we know to be true unless we're really counting on it. If our boss or a family member or a friend told us, they need us to read something very important today, then of course we're going to be counting on that reliable information. Otherwise, we're just reading. We're just looking into something. We're just looking for what we want to get out of it. We're not looking to do anything in particular. That is very important. Recreational reading, recreational studies, recreational hobbies. Recreation is not something that should be held up to a standard. That would be sport. No one writes for sport. The sports column is the sports column, but writing itself, it doesn't matter how many words per minute you get on a computer keyboard. It's not a sport. Esports are a different story. I'll get into that later. I will probably do an entire episode on esports just to establish my opinion on the matter and my place in the story, both as a game developer and as a hobbyist. For those of you that don't know, I go by the gamer tag WindedDrip414. I have played games since the early 2000s. I remember the first Guitar Hero, it's one of my favorites. Then Rock Band came out and the whole family could play. You know, your friends next door could come over and play. It was no longer a split screen game, it was for everyone. And then there's newer titles, along with some older titles. You have the big name games in esports, the FPS, the RPG, the MMO, and then you have the classics, the arcade style games, Tetris, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the racing games, the variety, pinball, air hockey, laser tag, the list goes on and on. A leaderboard is a leaderboard. What does that have to do with publicity? Well, marketing is publicity. In order for a game to succeed and do well, the development team has to market their game properly. It could be your local gaming arena, or it could be an online game that you play with your friends. Either way, something has to be supporting it. Some servers are held together with duct tape and toothpicks. If they're on a decent budget, they might even add some super glue. On the better end, you will see developers using technology that the end user has no problem understanding. High-end, valuable, resourceful. It can support gamers around the globe. There's no concerns about failure, there's no concerns about lag, there's no concerns about downtime. Updates patch immediately. It takes a matter of minutes. By the time your update is done, you're already playing. There's no need to prepare ahead of time. It wasn't always like that, but we can save that for another episode as well. Throughout all the controversy that surrounds publicity in today's public mediums, there's social media, but there's not much of anything else. Occasionally we'll see a commercial on television, or we'll hear a friend reference a new release. That's always nice. I enjoy it myself to hear my friends or my colleagues speak highly of a new development. It provides me with insight into what I can expect. If I don't hear about something, I'm not going to be excited about it, and I'm sure that you would feel the same. Who wants to play something that nobody's talking about? It's got to be really, really, really good for nobody to have heard about it and somebody to still play the game, especially if they have to pay for it. These newer mobile games, you don't really have to pay for them, but blockbuster titles, games that are going to be turned into Hollywood films or expansion packs and DLC, that's where the real value and the real fun comes in. It's no longer an idle clicker, it's no longer a game that's going to make your fingers hurt, it's a game that's going to have you sitting in the edge of your seat. I would like to compare this to celebrity. A lot of people view celebrity as this thing that's impossibly entangled in everything and nothing all at once. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, a lot of people don't know what it means. Beyond that, the people who do know what it means really don't know what they're talking about either. Occasionally, there's a great celebrity who does great things. They will talk highly of other people, they will provide resources to their community, they will perform excellently in all of their outreach, as well as doing great in the arts. I see more and more celebrity-owned businesses popping up around the country, around the world even, and it inspires my heart greatly to say that that is celebrity. That does not take away from everyone else. Everyone has their own dreams and everyone has their own aspirations. We all have our own reasons for what we do. Celebrity does not take that away from us. Just because we're celebrated, just because people who don't know us think they know us, or celebrate us even, that doesn't mean that they know exactly what's going on in our minds or in our hearts or in our lives today. That's not to say that any two people are going to feel the same about it, or that the standards for publicity are going to be the same. A musical artist or a performer in theater arts is not the same. Those two things are very different. A musician might play a single instrument, they might play many. They might have vocals, they might be a performer, they might be a writer, or they may end up somewhere else. There's no telling. Music is a very large industry, and so is theater. In the theater, you have what they call the theater family. Everyone plays a role. It doesn't matter if you're on stage or if you're behind stage. It doesn't matter if you're in the rafters. It doesn't matter if you're in the audience. You play a role in theater. It's very different than film. In film, you have an audience and you have a production team. Everyone's on set, lights, camera, action. In theater, it's very different. There's rehearsals. There's rehearsal after rehearsal after rehearsal, followed by pre-production that is nothing like pre-production in the film industry. For those of you who know, it's rather simple. But for those of you who don't know, I would encourage you to look into it. It's a very beautiful art form, and a lot of publicity does go into it. Theater does have some things in common with the film industry, such as production posters, flyers, ticket sales, and a lot of performing actors do move on to the film industry. Those are some of the greatest forms of publicity that we know today: video games, music, and film, and acting. Beyond that, there's writers, book authors, columnists, editors, script writers, and even social media influencers. I would really love to get into what it means to be a social media influencer today. I don't believe I have time for that in this episode, but I will give a brief analysis. An analysis that I've come up with on my own over the years. I had my introduction to vlogging around 2005 when YouTube started. It was a very different time back then. Vloggers were looking to build a portfolio, among other things, to advance themselves in their careers, in their lifestyles, and in their communities. They were the pioneers of the modern social media influencing. They had no intention of landing multi-million-dollar deals or even producing addicting content for young people. Their goal was rather simple. They had a story to tell, and they wanted to tell it the way that it was meant to be told, without the influence of outside investors or audiences. It was purely about the production at hand. All it took was a home video camcorder and a little bit of skills with iMovie or Windows Movie Maker. Those of you who were there will probably remember the cheesy cutscenes and the intros. It was heartwarming to see such a personal production, something that you could do in your own home. It was very different than home video, but it felt the same. Today, it's nothing like home video. It doesn't feel the same either. You will see those who work on other content, esport gamers, developers, artists, writers, celebrities even, who create their own vlogs or videos that are scripted otherwise to create content. Content is what social media influencing is all about today. There's good content, there's bad content, and there's content in between. No one can say what that means for anyone other than themselves. The publicity is public opinion. It is a general statement about what is agreed upon, a general consensus regarding whether or not the media is suitable for certain audiences and whether or not it fits well in today's society. With the upcoming productions with artificial intelligence, I feel that many would say we are an advanced civilization, one that has progressed greatly in the arts, in business, in media, and in our own lifestyles. That does not bridge the gap entirely, not yet at least. There are many people with many different opinions, and publicity cannot cover them all. No matter how many films are rolling or how many digital camcorders are rolling, there's still going to be something that does not get caught. It's not worth the trouble, it's not worth the time, and it's not worth the heartache. What is worth it is a completed production and something that someone somewhere will enjoy to the fullest. If there is anything that I did not go over or anything that I could have gone over differently, feel free to let me know. As usual, if there is anything that you would like to see on the show in the future, you can let me know about that as well. I also love to see questions and how this content has brought positivity into your life today. You can reach out on social, on the Entertain Ovation website, or any other way that works best for you. Thank you for listening.